honor to be here with you. My name is Reverend Nick Sanchez. My pronouns are he and elle. I am a light-skinned Latine man with dark eyes and black-rimmed square glasses, a bald head, a long black beard with some streaks of white, wearing a black button-down shirt and a black tie. And I am filled with absolute joy and gratitude to join you here today. So thank you for welcoming me. We do find ourselves in tough times, certainly. And in preparation for today, I had been thinking a lot about how we best remedy that. And so today, I come to share a message of hope and inspiration and to explore the importance of moving forward when we feel stuck, of finding motivation to embrace a life of purpose, of finding courage to say yes and becoming our most authentic selves. Because the world needs you, the world needs us, and the world needs you to be your youiest you that you can be. But what does it look like for us to fully embrace our own life? How do we do that when we feel a pull to go or to grow in a new direction, but we feel stuck, or we feel scared, or we just feel overwhelmed? And I want to begin to answer that, as I often do, with a story. The story begins longer and longer every time I tell it ago. Almost 15 years ago now, I was not doing so great. In fact, I found myself at one of the lowest moments of my life. And as a guy who recently spent 3 weeks in the ICU, that is saying a lot. I was beaten down. I was exhausted. I felt empty after years of hardship. It was a time I had just suffered a debilitating spinal cord injury. I went through several surgeries. At the same time, I lost my own small business. I had my truck stolen. Bills were piling up. Job prospects were scant, and I was overwhelmed. On top of it all, I was reeling from the loss of loved ones who had recently passed, including a young beloved nephew. I looked around me and I saw a world on fire. I felt broken. I felt stuck. I felt hopeless, and I was ready to just throw my arms up in the air, sit back, and watch the world go by. And I wasn't just content to watch the world go by, but I was paralyzed by fear to do anything. I thought, what if I lost again? What if I failed again? What if I made the wrong decisions? Or what if I committed to something I later regretted? What if I somehow made things even worse? What if I wasted my time? And that was a tough thought. Wasting my precious time here on this earth, what could be worse than that? But I was already wasting my time. I was not living my authentic life. I was letting life happen at me. And life became filled by the things around me rather than me filling it with the things I wanted. I was a passenger in my own car. I was a sidekick in my own story. And for the younger folks, I was an NPC in my own game. That's non-player character for those not in the know. And then I had a moment that changed me. Let's call it an interruption moment. It wasn't the first one in my life, and I doubt that it will be the last. I was living in a rundown apartment in an attic in a not so great part of Philadelphia. I had just returned home from working a double shift washing dishes at the only job that I could find at the time. And I was soaking wet with dirty dishwater and old beer. My clothes were encrusted with salsa. I was having a bit of a rough day. And after this particularly long day, all that I wanted to do was just crash on the mattress in the corner on the floor. But a few weeks before this day, I had lost someone very close to me, my beloved nephew, and I had a nightly ritual to honor them that I had not yet done that day. And so, before I fell onto the mattress, I went to the part of the apartment where I kept a little altar and I lit a candle. Or rather, I tried to light a candle, but in keeping with this very frustrating the day, it would just not light. And so off I went to the little kitchenette side of my apartment to find a knife to dig the wick out. And in that kitchen, there was a window that would never quite close all the way. And from that window, I could hear the sounds of the street coming up to my apartment. And I remember very distinctly hearing something that you would not normally ever hear in that part of the city. It was very clear, it was very direct. It was the voice of Frank Sinatra. And as clear as day, I heard one line of a song. He asked a question that seemed directed right at me. What are you doing with the rest of your life? I had never heard that particular song before, and I actually later had to go look it up to see if it was a real song or if I had just been hearing things. Those words struck me. I felt something deep within me. It felt like the universe was asking me that question over and over. What are you doing with the rest of your life? I could not stop thinking about it for the rest of the day and all through the night. I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts racing, and that realization struck me. I was not living my life. I was going through it, sure, but I just saw myself going through the motions. I saw myself as the casual observer I was being, and I knew that I had to make some changes to start living again, to use that precious gift of time that I had been given that others like my nephew had been robbed of. And so I did. People say that the prophetic voice is just what you need to hear at the right time in your life. And that's what came through to me that day. I never thought it would be Frank. The very next day, I woke up and I grabbed my phone and I reached out to someone that I had had a crush on since high school, who I had not seen in years, and by some minor miracle, she responded. And now, 15 years later, we're married, we share this house together, and our 3-year-old daughter, Willow Violet, is being raised by both of us. You know, our faith has long proclaimed the inherent dignity and worth of all people. And for a long while, I had forgotten to include myself, that I am included in all people. I had forgotten the worth and the dignity of my own life. And so I began. And the next few years, I slowly embraced a purposeful life. I started down a path that brought me to ministry, to right here before you today. And when I started this path, when I took those first steps into professional ministry, that long, complicated process of UU ordination, I had a lot of friends stop me and ask me, why? Why are you doing this? Why ministry? Why Unitarian Universalism? Why now? And at the core of my answer is my belief that the true spirit of any congregation, whether they be UU or any real earnest religious community, is to come together in community to try to be better. And I think that is all a sentiment that we can appreciate that the world needs now, perhaps more than ever. Trying to be better. Not better than, just better. Being better means turning against those primal human instincts of fear and anger and instead saying yes to courage and to love. Of turning against socialized instincts of staying quiet or going with the flow and instead embracing a life of purpose. Of saying yes to living your convictions, of being your authentic self. Because back then, in that apartment in Philadelphia, I was living in a world of maybe, of passivity. When we are too comfortable or too afraid to say yes or to say no, we live in this limbo of maybes. It is a world of non-commitment, indecision, and vacillation, and it can present us with the illusion of ease. How many of us have ever received an invitation or an evite, and rather than being able to hit yes or no, we responded with that dreaded maybe? It's pretty hard to plan a party with 100 maybes. And whether it's from our inability to know where our responsibilities will take us, or we want to leave our options open, or we simply do not want to disappoint our host, we've all done it. Now take yourself back, and for some of us, way, way back. Imagine you're sitting at your desk in grade school. You get a folded piece of paper passed up to you, and it says something along the lines of, "Do you like me?" Circle, yes, no, maybe. You can guess what gets circled the most. Or perhaps it's you who are the one sending the note and you get back that non-committal response. Do you remember the feeling of getting maybe as an answer to a question or to an invitation? Living in a world of maybe is difficult, often disappointing, but rarely ever life enriching. Friends, to embrace a life of purpose, become our most authentic selves, means to make a commitment to things one way or the other. And when I was going through theology school on my path to ordination, I encountered something that absolutely inspired me to do so. It continues to inspire me to this day. I found the poet Andrea Gibson. My first encounter with Andrea was a recording of them reading their poem Say Yes, which I thought was quite appropriately titled. Andrea Gibson was an award-winning poet and activist who unfortunately left this world not too long ago. If you have not heard of them, I cannot recommend enough that you check out their work or even their biographical documentary called Come See Me in the Good Light. Their poems move me to tears. This poem, Say Yes, every time I hear it, moves me to tears. It was read at my own ordination just last Sunday, and I wept. It has become one of those works of art that I read or listen to 5, 6, 7 times a year because it is something that inspires me to me, to be the most authentic version of myself I can be. And the poem is a bit long, and because of that, and for copyright reasons, I'm not going to read the whole thing here with you today, though you can certainly find it online. I want to share with you a few excerpts from it, though. Andrea begins the poem with the words, "When two violins are placed in a room, if the chord on one violin is struck, the other violin will sound the note. If this is your definition of hope, this is for you." And it continues with words so deep and moving. "This is for the man who showed me that the hardest thing about having nothing is having nothing to give. And this is for the people who rattle the cage that slave wage built, and for the ones who didn't know filth until tonight, but right now are beginning songs that sound something like people turning their porch lights on and calling the homeless back home." With lines like, "This is for the times you went through hell so someone else would not have to," and "This is for believing or refusing to believe in miracles because miracles are the impossible coming true and everything is possible. This is for saying I love you to the people who will never say it to us." And it ends with the refrain, "This is for saying yes. This is for saying yes." Friends, I absolutely love that poem, and I think the reason that it hits me so deeply in the feels, as they say, is what inspires me. Almost every stanza, every line of that poem is an example of people making choices to embrace life. The line that stands out to me the most is the one I just said. This is for saying I love you to people who will never say it to us. And I feel so moved by that line because that is the most selfless act of courage and love that I can possibly imagine. It is the true spirit of loving thy neighbor. And I cannot think of a better example in the spirit of embracing a purposeful life, of doing something that we than of doing something that we believe is right and wonderful, when it would be much, much easier not to. When we know that there will be no reward or payoff other than our belief that it is what should be done. You see, friends, one of the hardest parts about living a mortal life is not the knowledge that it must one day end, but that we only have so much time to put love into the world, to put ourselves into the world, as much love into the world as we possibly can. There's another line in the poem, the only reason to live is to give yourself away. And I believe that with every ounce of my being. And so what I want you to take away from what I'm talking about today is this. I hope you find something that motivates you to be you, to be the youest you that you can be. And whether it's a poem or art or music, find something that makes you want to say yes to your most authentic life, to be your truest self. And no, not necessarily saying yes to everything. In this day and age, there are certainly many things that I hope you say no to. But I do hope that you find something that makes you want to say yes to embracing a life of purpose. Find something, find many things, and then build them into your life. Hang art on your wall. Read a poem every day. Listen to the song. Cook the meal. Play the game. Call the friend. Write the words. Make that your own personal form of prayer. Find it and embrace it. And whether that voice comes from inside, from an award-winning poet, or even from Frank Sinatra, fill your life with the things that make you want to be you. And then help each other to do it too. This is what I challenge you with today, to live our lives authentically, to embrace our truest selves. When we live authentically, we commit to action and align those actions with our values. So may we all find the strength and determination to live our lives authentically and with purpose. Because as Andrea Gibson would say, whatever song you've been singing, sing even more. Because the world needs us right now more than it ever has before. Amen. And may you all live in blessing.